Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Rick Cecco, welcome to ATV Talk. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Hey, man, I really appreciate in your busy schedule that you took some time to come on the show and talk about yourself and your motorsports company.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been, I know we've been working on this for some time and I kind of put you off. I have a new facility we opened up recently, a retail store. It's been taking every week and second of time I had. Our fab shop, which is in a different location, that's moving over to here. Hopefully, first of 2026 is the goal for that. And it's just been a lot of moving pieces.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not starting a business, you're just expanding your business.
Yeah, we are. Since 2016, I opened up my own fabrication business, decided to start making parts for other people beyond just at the racetrack, for people at the track, but then also our core customers are always the consumer, the ones that pay full retail. We need to give them a product that uh, fits properly, ships in a reasonable amount of time. In today's Amazon world, people expect things to be moving within 48 hours of order. They want to know where it's at.
You mean they wait that long with you?
Oh, we try our best to raise the bar. I know, a lot of it is inexperience on my end, and then a lot of it is based off of I uh, I try to figure out what I like and what I don't like. Being a consumer myself, I know I'm always hesitant on buying high ticket items. I'm always hesitant on buying anything, and I do my research in and out to make sure I'm buying the right product that will work for me. But then also at the same time, is like especially if it's a larger purchase, it's always like, when can I have it? Because if I'm gonna pull the trigger today, I want to know when's it coming.
Right.
And so I know in my world of selling ATV parts and manufacturing them, my clientele they want to know when it's coming. And right out of the gate, we want to make sure that we can meet those demands. And that's the biggest part that I strive for, is to have a timely shipment time frame, reasonable amount of time. The product needs to fit properly. They need to be excited about getting it. They need to be happy about the purchase that they had. Nothing worse than buying something that doesn't fit or needs to be modified. Or,
Were you in the ATV industry in the 80s?
I was, I was, uh, and that's kind of like the premise of it all is like, what don't I want to be like? You know, I
Right.
know what makes me happy, but I also know like what I remember. A lot of times it's the stuff that I don't want to be like. I don't want, for instance, yourself, your product had your last name on it, right? And
Right.
there's several other out there, businesses that create quality products that have their last name in them. And that means something to me. Whether you say it right or not, if I'm putting my name on it, I'm expecting you to have a great experience. I want to give you a great experience. I want repeat customers.
Right. And that's what business is all about, really. We're there to make money and generate more business by generating more customers with great customer service.
Exactly. That's what we
So
strive for.
we'll get back more into the motorsports side of it, in a bit. There's a lot of people that don't know everything about you. Let's go back to your racing days because this is ultimately where the foundation comes from.
It's a, yeah, it's definitely where a lot of things started. I started extremely late. I didn't grow up with a whole lot of money in the family. My father passed away when I was 12 years old, so it was just my mom, myself, and my two sisters. By the age of 15, I was happy just to have a bicycle. you know, and it just I was appreciative of what I had, and pretty much everything I had was from mowing lawns or delivering a newspaper. Even to the point of where, you know, we were poor enough that we qualified for reduced lunch tickets. So I had like a blue card that would get punched, and that said that these people are poor, but we're going to give them a discounted lunch. I would mow lawn just so I didn't have to use that thing. I didn't tell my mom that I never used it. I would come up with my own lunch money because I just didn't want to be like that. And so from that point on, I always was striving to get out of this hole that I was in because I knew there was a better place to be. I knew what I didn't want to be like. I knew where I wanted to go. And I was always fascinated by hot rods. Hot Rod magazine was big as a kid. In the library, they'd have 3 and 4 wheel ATV action, at the school. And I had friends that had dirt bikes, 4 wheelers, and stuff like that. And I had my BMX bike. It was a Mongoose Californian. I worked my ass off for that thing in 1983, but it was awesome. And, you know, went through high school, college, and finally, I'd say it was probably 22 years old. No, yeah, around 20, 22 years old. So I had my first ATV that I bought, which was a Honda 250R, and just got addicted from there. Like we would ride, it didn't matter. In that area that we live in eastern Pennsylvania, it's all old coal fields where they came in, they stripped the land. A lot of it was bare, overturned dirt, a lot of hills made from comb piles, from leftover refuse from, what was mined that didn't go back into the ground once they took the coal out of it. So, I mean, we would ride if it was raining, snowing, sleeting, whatever the temperature was, because it was just something that we loved to do. And I finally could afford to have it. And that just grew into trying some local ATV races, into starting the GNCC Nationals, trying them out, which I really wasn't too good at it. I'd get arm pump, my thumb would get sore. I'd look for every excuse why I didn't finish a race. And, you know, but I still loved the environment. I loved working on them more than I did racing them at the time. So, and I was always just kind of tinkering on, what can we do to make things better? Uh, that kind of kept things going, and where, there was an article one time I read where, like Mickey Dunlop, he'd always have a Dirt Wheels article, and where he would do a build and showcase his machines and stuff like that. Well, I got the idea. There was a new magazine the on the Proud called ATV Sport. Sent them an email and said, "Hey, I'm looking to do a build, of a Cannondale Blaze. What do you think about that?" And I want to build it and do like a 3-part story. And they were like all about it. And that just started the process of getting to know people in the industry, calling them up, whether it was Lone Star or Wayne Meridian from PEP, or, a few of the others that I got to know throughout the years. And I started finding out ways to upgrade my machine without having to necessarily buy all the parts. I didn't have the best results. By then, I was like a top 3 rider in my class, but never really was a winner. And then, I don't know, just did that for a few years and kind of took a break for a while. And then I came back. The track always calls me back. Sometimes I would get burnt out, and I was like, I'm going to take a bit off. And I did, and played on some mountain bikes and stuff. And then, you know, what brought me back to where I am today was back in, what was it, 2006, when the WPSA came out and they had the quad train challenge. And I had some friends that were doing it and doing well with it. And I was like, man, we could do that. So I went out and bought a Honda Recon and raced it, and didn't do really well. Uh, but got the chance to meet more people and, reintroduce myself into the industry. And then uh, went back to the GNCC track and raced the 4x4 class. And I tell you what, I don't know, I've never met you before, but I'm taller. I'm like 6'3". And I think the biggest issue I had um, growing up with racing with the sport quads was sitting down on a sport quad. My knees were above my hip line, like totally out of the power. You know what I mean? It's like being in the ass to grass of doing a squat, and, it just was always my back would get tight. I'd get pumped up. I just could never, I could ride well for a short period of time, but not a long period of time. And once I got myself on a utility ATV, all of a sudden my knees were below my hip line and I had some power to me. And the speed was never an issue. It was just how I would get tired. And I found my strength in 4x4 racing. And I had a Honda Recon. And then I remember it was 2006. I went to Powerline Park. Back then, uh, Can-Am had a newly formed factory racing team for the 4x4s. This is before side-by-sides even existed, through Warner Racing. And I reached out to Warner and I said, "Hey, I go, would you like to sell me one of your ATVs?" And they said, "Yeah, we have a 650 here that was the legal size for WPSA at the time. And at the GNCC, the legal size was 800 cc." I was like, "Yeah, I'll buy it." And I bought it and I went out and I beat the factory riders. So I reached in my own pocket, bought one of their machines off the truck, went out that day and beat them, and continued from that point forward, in which I got a phone call at the end of the season, and they offered me a factory ride with Can-Am. And that just started the whole process of, okay, we're back. I found my spot. I found where I belonged. And I had a great run with Can-Am for 2007. I won the GNCC National Championship. 2008, we just had a string of bad luck with engines and tuning. I placed second or third. 2009, I won another national championship. And then by the time 2009, 2010 came around, side-by-sides were getting introduced, and Can-Am was dominating, as they even are today now, on the 4x4 market. They figured out that they could get more riders for less because they had a X Team package they started pushing, where you pretty much got a parts discount and a machine at a discount, and everyone was jumping in on that. So the guys with the factory rides, our contracts were dwindling smaller and smaller. Where we used to have, back in the day, 2007 through 2009, for me, I had a factory mechanic that put food on his family's table working on my four-wheeler. I mean, that was as close to Supercross, as close to what anybody else could dream could happen. I was flying up into Minnesota to do testing um, at a place called Quadna with Fox Racing. We did that 3 times. They had a lot of money invested in developing that ATV product, and I was a huge part of it, and it was an exciting time. And then all of a sudden, we can't do that much for you. We're going to go a different direction. And I think my pride got the best of me, and I turned down their offer for 2011. Actually, no, for 2010. And I walked away for a little bit. I tried to do it on my own, but at the end of the day, I realized that I don't like spending my own money to go racing. And I was spoiled. I really was. I had it great. I went from a huge semi to my own box trailer and working on it every night. And it was taxing on myself, my family. We had a newborn baby. And it just became too much for, I even had a gracious contract with Gates G-Force belts. They paid me a median salary that year to get by and represent them, and it was awesome. But by the time that year was over, I was done. I couldn't do it anymore because my career at the time, I was probably about 8 years in on being a senior estimator for a commercial electrical contractor, and that company was really good to me. And I actually ended up working for them for 22 years and retired from that to start the business in 2016, where we are today from 9 years ago. But yeah. And then I'm
You,
missing out a piece where back in 2013, I came back and started working with Polaris. Got a lot of support from Polaris on the new Scrambler platform, which was fun. We had a blast with that. 2014, I had a factory contract with Polaris. That went really well. 2015 came and they didn't have a spot for me, and my days were over. So from that point, I went on to race a bunch of bucket list races. I went to Romania to race Hunt the Wolf, placed second. That was the most gnarly race I've ever been in my life. The most beautiful trails, the steepest hills going up and going down that I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing. And when I was over there for that, I met some people from England. I met a bunch of people from Sweden, made some lifelong friends I still talk to today. Got invited to race the Weston Beach race. It's another bucket list. I mean, if you looked at the Dirt Wheels list of races to do, world's hardest, I've done them all except for Pont de Vaux. That's the only one I haven't done. Um, so we've raced Weston Beach race, got second in that one. Showed up, jumped on a four-wheeler I'd never ridden before. It was a Can-Am Outlander set up by Gary Hodgins. Beautiful four-wheeler. Uh, that was a 3 hour long gnarly race. Wow. I mean, you're going down the sand surf of the beach upwards of 85 mile an hour, and there's spray coming up, and all it takes is one guy in front of you blow a belt, blow a chain, blow up, and you're packing them and you're done. So it was gnarly, crazy. And plus, Weston Beach race, you're racing with those crazy three-wheel guys, the motorcycles with the sidecar. Those guys are absolutely nuts. They will take you out. They have no disregard for even themselves. They are just crazy. And then continue to do a race out in Sweden called Snow Mud. Uh, did Hunt the Wolf 2 more times. Took some Americans over. They had a blast. And 2016 came, and I had an opportunity to retire from my work that I had, and we had an opportunity to buy an old part of the family property where I originally was from, which is about an hour north of where we were living at the time. And we bought it and sold everything down, and moved up. And I talked to my wife. I'm like, I'd really like to try to start a fab shop because I finally had this pole barn that I always wanted. I always wanted a pole barn, and I always wanted a place to put all my tools and stuff like that and figure things out. And at that point, we cut our nut in half on what our mortgage used to be, what our taxes used to be, what our cost of living was cut in half by moving from this big house with 10 acres in the suburbs to, a house with 4 acres in the country at my homestead. And built a bunch of traction doing that and just slowly progressed. 1 year we're doing $100,000 a year. The next year, it's 180. The year after that, 250. Now we're up. We're getting ready to break 1 million, and we're just continually growing, coming out with new products, and it's kind of where we're at right now. I have 4 full-time fabricators working for me that are killing it. I'd put them up against anyone out there in the United States, in the world, when it comes to putting stuff together. Um, and we're constantly listening to our customers on product development, what they want. And a lot of times it even comes down to just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there's a lot of things we say no to because it just doesn't make sense.
in
And
in ATV world, I think it's one of the few industries or customer based things that the customer's not always right.
they are, though, to some extent. You have to listen to them. Even
Right.
if you get, even if you can get 5%, I would have, since we started making aluminum products 3 years ago. And when I say aluminum, I mean we were known in making 4x4 parts, which is all mainly steel. And then we graduated into sport quads, making some of the best skid plate rotor guards out there on the market. I mean, our rotor guards were something that no one has ever even seen. We have a reverse gusset design that never existed till we developed ours. Even to the point of where we make them out of mild steel. And a lot of people are like, even to this day, other manufacturers make them out of stainless. We went with mild steel because there was a moment in time back in, it was around 2016 where no one could keep a chain on their quad. And come to figure out that a lot of them, the I think the chain manufacturers saw that the ATV side was dying down. They started to try to use a dirt bike chain on an ATV, which just didn't work. And what we were starting to see was that the pins were failing because the pins on the chain were rubbing against the skid plate. So I needed to create a product that actually was softer, like aluminum would be, but not that soft. So we went with mild steel. And then we also came out with a whole new rotor guard design that was actually cut out of 5/8 hot rolled steel versus a formed piece. We call it a banana, but it would be cut out. And those things just took off. Like all of a sudden, the chain stopped breaking. People still run stainless till today. I don't know if that was the theory, but that's why we went with mild steel at the time. And
Well,
even to this day, it has worked well for everyone.
everybody's got their own porridge in the way they make their product.
Yeah,
Who are anybody else to say that you did it wrong, because it obviously worked and you obviously sold a ton of them.
it works and it still does. And even till today, we still do. We make running changes constantly. Uh, I have at least 5 or 6 builders that we work with that are constantly giving me input on what they like, what they don't like. They all know if they receive something from me and it doesn't fit exactly, I want to know because I'm going to figure out when it happened, why it happened, or what changed so we can make that um, running change now. Because a typical builder will just keep moving forward. They're not going to stop and call and say, "Hey, Rick, this doesn't fit right." They just make it fit. They have the ability to make it fit, or they make a small modification. I want to know that because I'm here for the consumer that's working out of their, 200-piece Craftsman tool set out in their dirt floor garage that doesn't have the resources that a lot of people have to make things work. So yeah, it's different. And but anyways, that took off. But what I was getting at with our aluminum product was we were making these Nerf bars for I'm sorry, for the sport quads, the Yamaha 450, Honda 450, the Raptor 125, 250 are extremely popular. That's the number one youth model out there. It hasn't been made for over what 12 years now, I think, and it's still the number one youth models out there. The Raptor chassis, the shifter 125, 250s. But I kept getting people bugging me to make Nerf bars for Honda 90s. And I'm like, no way. Like, there's no way. I'm not doing it. And they're like, you have to. I'm like, no one's gonna. I looked at it and what it would take to build. I'm like, no one's gonna spend $500 on a set of Nerf bars for a Honda 90. And they're like, I'll buy them if you build them. And so I sat there and I met the one race 2 years ago. I met with 5 different people at separate occasions and sat there and talked to them about the product that they had on their machine of a different manufacturer and what we could do to make it better. Because it's the only time I'm ever interested in making a product that already exists is if I can make it better. And there was several things with the Honda 90. One, I don't think it was ever really taken serious. I think it was always an afterthought, like, yeah, we'll make them just as a pit quad. Well, people are racing these things now. A lot of kids are racing them. And it came down to several different factors. One is the foot peg height had to stay the same as the factory. Um, Two was the foot peg width has to be narrow. These aren't adults riding these quads. These have to be narrow so that you have a kid with a size 4 boot. If you had the peg too wide, he's standing on the heel and on the floor of his foot, at the same time. So then they're not stable on them, which then makes them hard to shift. And then finally, which I thought was the craziest thing, but it made sense after a while, was no adult could shift the four-wheeler with an aftermarket Nerf bar on because their toes would hit the front bar. Like every adult that had a kid that raced them, they'd have to reach down and pull up on the lever to go. Because you physically, if you had a size 10 or bigger foot, there was no way you could shift it because there'd be interference. And we hit all those bullet points and a few more, and them things sell like hotcakes. It's unreal. And so it just goes to show that it's not always about price. A lot of times it's about just listening to the consumer and giving them what they want. And if they really want it, they'll pay for it. I had no idea the amount of Honda 90 Nerf bars that we would be selling right now. And it just comes down to listening to the consumer.
You think about it, sometimes you scratch your head on what sells and what doesn't, because as builders, sometimes we're seeing, hey, this needs to be built for this machine, and the consumer base doesn't care.
Yeah, um, that's tough. I kind of usually it takes me having someone ask multiple times before I start looking at it. Or I'll see something just that just sticks out in my eyes. It's like, man, that needs to be addressed, and I can't believe no one has seen it yet. But yeah, a lot of it comes from just suggestions on or just pure, frustration that there's not a product out there, and if they can justify it, you know, back to the Honda 90 Nerfs, no one made a mud guard for the front of it, so it's just little stuff like that that we incorporate in our design, and like I said, that's where we are. That's what has grown us. Our Nerf bars for the 450s, we've made several small revisions over the years to make them um, just overall better, I guess you would say, in the fit and feel. The ergonomics are huge. Trying to, give the rider what they want. What are they feeling? A lot of them don't like mud that packs up inside the foot peg area. So we made our pegs a little bit wider so that you can stomp the mud down through. Um, just down to yeah, multiple factors where Nerf bars were typically made for what? Motocross. Well, they used to be XC, which is my XC is my that's my arena. I'm starting to make a lot of motocross stuff for people now, but XC is my arena, and a lot of items that graduated into XC, like Nerfs, were motocross oriented, but um, adapted to XC. And we started making XC specific stuff, and it has, like I said, it's taken off really well.
Do you do much side by side development?
No, I want to. That's one of the reasons why we're moving a new shop here. Right now, we have about 3,800 square feet that we're running out of. We're going to be about 6,000 in our new facility, and we're going to have some spillover about another 4,000 once it's ready to go. So, the biggest reason why I've stuck with ATV was the parts are smaller. So, and when you're a manufacturer that stocks parts like we do, you don't want to make them any bigger than they have to be. So I'd love to make more side by side stuff because um I know that arena is huge. However, at the same time, it doesn't pull my heartstrings. Like we rent side by sides out. That's one of the new avenues that we have here at Cecco Motorsports. But at the end of the day, like I'm tried and true ATV guy. Like that's what I would if I had a preference on a seat and a steering wheel or handlebars, I'm going for the handlebars.
Right, right. Um, can we talk a little bit about an XC, right? Changing the subject, get your opinion on some things. Uh,
Sure.
the industry, I believe, when you look at the racing in America and you look at the West Coast works best in the desert, and then legacy, some of the other desert things that are going on. That's great. It's not growing. ATV motocross is not growing. It's stagnated. It's I think bad promoters, but for whatever you want to cause or talk about the issues, GNCC on the other hand is growing.
Hmm.
What is your reasonings for believing that the GNCC side is doing such a great job, and why are they growing?
In my opinion, I'm not sure. I didn't know that the MX side is in a stagnant state. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, The I guess from what I know with GNCC, why I prefer XC is there is at least seven other XC series out there that are pulling huge numbers. I don't have to sell any parts to GNCC to make money. I can sell it to IXCR, Mideast, all over. Like XC seems to be more of a home. There's more people racing XC than there are as a whole than motocross because they can make up the tracks anywhere. A motocross track, you actually have to have a facility that's willing to let a four-wheeler on it. So the local series most likely don't exist or struggle to put a schedule together to even introduce someone, let alone have them want to graduate to go to a national. Uh, the My kids raced motocross dirt bikes from 50s to 85s. I loved it. I make ATV parts for a living, but I loved motocross because we'd go buy a brand new gas 50 or 85, spend 6 grand, come home, set the sag on it, check the air pressure, and we were going racing. Like that doesn't exist in ATVs, unfortunately, you know? And uh, I think one of the biggest issues that we have with even the series as a whole for any series, whether it's motocross or um, G, XC, we'll say XC, cross country, is there is this huge void of a platform for a kid to ride between the ages of 10 and 15.
Yep.
They're loaded with Raptor 125s, Raptor 250s, and Raptors with Honda CRF 150 engines in. All these quads have not been produced for over, well, we're on 12 years now since the last Raptor was produced. And I'm talking about a shifter, clutch, foot shift machine. That was probably never really meant to be a racing chassis, but it's actually has worked really well for the youth to graduate up through. It's ungodly expensive to build hybrids. And I feel like that's just a huge void that we have there where it stops there. Like if you are a parent and you finally have the means to give your 12-year-old kid something to go race, it's tough to do. And because of the amount of modifications that are required, you can't just go buy a quad like you can go buy a dirt bike. Now, the competition in dirt bikes is extremely insane. Just to get to Loretta Lynn's is ungodly hard. It it's easier to get a national championship on ATV than a dirt bike by far. There's just so many more kids that race dirt bike. The amount is it's got to be 10 times. And just even to get past regionals to qualify, even to get to go to the big show is a task in itself.
Do you
So,
think that motocross should take their amateur program and move it to more like a motorcycle amateur program where you have to go to regional qualifiers to get to the big show?
I don't know what the disconnect is. I think there'd be less people that showed up if that was the case. I think it takes the whole nation to bring everybody into one spot to create 250 entries. That's pretty bad, don't you think? I mean, if you think
Yeah,
you have a
because
couple of guys coming from the West Coast, but you have all east of the Mississippi, and if you're only pulling 250 entries out of all of that, how are you going to make that any bigger by segregating it into multiple
well,
spots?
what I was going with it is you have every ATV there, short of a couple classes, you're spending 15 to 40 grand to go racing.
Yeah.
So as an industry, can we, which should we, force it to be stock level classes till until you get to your A class? Then you start riding more modified machines before you jump into a pro-am class or a pro class, where you have to have some of these modifications. Uh, you look at some of the XC guys or some of the XC stuff, you could bolt a set of shocks on that Yamaha and go race it as it is.
Yeah, as long as everyone else was, yes.
And sometimes you don't even need to bolt shocks on.
No, you don't.
So if we force the ATV motocross scene to do something like this, which should be transitional, you should be able to have a learning curve classes all the way up to where there are no mods for those kids and those parents to learn what those machines are. I think the ATV world has lost sight of education for for the community itself.
We need manufacturers to produce ATVs that the kids can ride.
Well, you got right now you have KO, which is bringing in a 300cc machine. Um, one of our biggest problems was getting the government involved in telling us what age bracket these kids can ride these machines. So we're
Yep.
taking skill and size, and instead of age, because you got some young kids that are too big to ride some of the little machines, and you got some of the older kids that are still tiny that maybe could ride the little machines. I mean, you already know where I'm going with all of this.
I I'm looking at it right now. I have a Yamaha YFZR that I built for my 15-year-old son this past year that we took out a 45 horsepower Yamaha 450 engine out of it and put a 50 horsepower KTM 250 engine in it, and now he's legal to ride it. And it costs a ton of money to make that conversion, but the CC um, size is an issue with age for ATVs. And then unfortunately, the the steps of what manufacturers have out there and what they're allowed to ride is it's not gradual enough. It's too robust. It's too what we have 50s, 90s, and then they go to what 250s now. But they're the 250 that's available would be like a Raptor or a Honda, something with a shaft drive, whatever you want to call
Right.
it. But there's nothing there for the kids to ride. To graduate to learn to shift with a clutch. It's just there's a huge void for sure. And the right now I don't know how low they can go, but the like my kid could have been racing a 450 easily this past year. He's bigger, he's stronger than probably half of the YXCW lineup at a race, the women's class. And but they are of age, and I guess obviously the only thing they would be is more mature. and they can ride this 450 because they're allowed to, because they meet the age requirements. However, when you have several kids that once they hit 14, 15, I think they are ready for a 450 in my opinion. But
especially in a racing environment where they've been
yes,
brought up through it and they've been trained and they understand how it works. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
right. But I mean, I think what we have is we have a huge void with the manufacturers, and unfortunately, they don't have a whole lot of interest in making ATVs for us. The bottom line. I mean, we only have one left right now, Yamaha, and it's a great platform. But even then, they're still selling them with clutch baskets that explode, off the showroom floor if you plan to race it, or, everyone's running LTR geometry and caster brackets, you know, uh, and even thumb throttles from Suzuki's and Hondas. Like, there's been many years and opportunities even to say, hey, we have upgraded the thumb throttle to for better ergonomics. Like, give us something other than bold new graphics. Yeah.
Well, looking at it from the only manufacturer in the industry,
Yeah.
they don't have to change it.
They don't, but it'd be kind of cool to say, yeah, we got your back, but we're also gonna, we know it's not gonna be a huge change for us just to put a different thumb throttle on it.
Right.
Give us something, you know, or a lot of people are putting the old '09 clutch basket that exists. Like, just put that back in it, so we don't have to spend $1,000 right out of the gate to go back to what they once had.
Right. That
Um,
worked then,
what's that?
unfortunately the government got involved in the overall tuning of the machine with the
Yeah.
emissions and ruined it, and that's why that clutch came to be.
Oh, really? That
Yeah.
has to do with emissions.
Well, yeah, because the bike wouldn't run. So now with that slipper style clutch, it doesn't die.
Okay, I didn't even know that was why.
Yeah.
Wow, see, there we go. I learned something today. So we need that clutch there for a stock machine to run to its full potential.
And no, because it doesn't run to its full potential because the ECU is so ill tuned to get it into the country because our government regulations are so screwed up that you have to instantly change the device that tunes it or it'll never run right. You talk
Wow.
about a safety issue,
See, look at me. I don't even know what I'm talking about here.
but you look at a safety issue,
Yeah.
put a freaking novice on a YFC 450 that doesn't know how to ride and that ill running 450 that may have a stalling issue or a stumbling issue or a stutter in it, and that comes from the government regulation. It's not Yamaha's fault. Nobody can be mad
Wow.
at Yamaha. You got to be pissed off at the government in my state because they're the ones that created and caused it.
That's crazy. I had no idea. That's why the clutch was, I thought it was just a motocross oriented clutch system that may be good for, 8-minute motos. I had no idea that it was an emissions or
They'll
a
never
rig.
tell you that, but
What?
when they'll never tell you that, but when you follow it as closely and as tightly as we do, that's exactly why it happened. Because you
Wow.
couldn't ride, go get on an '09 with no mods, and you can't ride it because it shuts off.
Okay.
You get
I
on a
redact everything I just said about the clutch.
no, don't because it is a problem. I mean,
It,
it is.
I,
It
I
is.
just, I, we've seen people, unfortunately, I guess where I'm at with that was I've seen several new to the sport families been bitten by that. And
Yeah,
it's a bummer because
it is.
they're like, what do you mean I need to change that? I just bought it. It's brand new. And it's a tough pill to swallow, when you see good people that are doing the best they can to give their kid an opportunity and something like that happens and there's no real recourse for it other than it's not even a warranty item. It's just sorry. So
Yeah, they look at it
yeah.
this way.
So
It's
I guess I'll redact my statement on that.
No, don't, because it's true. It's a problem.
It,
Yamaha
it
should put the old style clutch back in it.
I didn't realize that I didn't realize it made that much of a change.
It did. I'm sure if you got an old school machine that's never been touched and rode
Hmm.
it, and then jump on a 14 up and ride it, you'd be like, wow,
Okay.
they sold this way. And then you ride it at 14 with the modifications to keep it from having some of those issues. You say, hey, great, that's great. It still runs like crap, but now it doesn't stall every 2 seconds.
Okay. Wow. I had no idea. It sounds like a flywheel weight would have helped.
It might have. It might have. As long as your stator that they put in them after 14 doesn't come apart, or your flywheel.
Well, we're thankful they're still there. I would just wish that there'd be like something other than color change, you know. Um, and
I
maybe there's things that have happened that I missed along the years, but I I don't see it.
They
Uh,
have the next gen on the drawing board waiting for a competitor.
well, yeah, because if the competitor is using that as a baseline, then they're ready to stomp.
Yeah, the competitor comes in, it competes for 1 to 2 years, and then Yamaha puts out their new model. Boom! And uh, I've been told, I don't know if this is true, so don't everybody in the chat, don't freaking kill me on this one. I'm told that they have with the YFZ, the YZ setup in it, ready to go to production, but they're not doing it because there's no reason to do it.
I've ridden one, and you're talking about something that might need to be detuned. Holy crud. It is a true dirt bike engine and an ATV chassis is ungodly different to ride. Um, so much more spirited. I mean, our KTM 250 that we have in our YFZR here is extremely fun to ride. It's just as fast as a stock 450. It's lighter, a few pounds lighter, but you can feel that it's lighter. It's fun. Um, it has more horsepower than a stock um, 450 does at the wheel. And I don't know, like there's definitely room to do just a little bit more, I guess you would say.
Oh, I think that if you could get a factory to come in and do it. So, what's your thoughts on a Chinese manufacturer coming in and filling that slot? How would you feel about that?
Um, I have no issue with anything that comes out of China as long as it's not a copy of something, a direct copy to sell it for less. If you want to come in and innovate, by all means, come and do it. I'm not a big fan of, I actually have about three products that I brought first to market that were copied by the Chinese and totally killed. Um, it killed my profit margins instantly overnight. So I'm not a big fan of that. Now, if they want to come in with their own machine and it's their own design, and obviously it's hard to reinvent the wheel, but it can't be a direct copy is all that I ask. Be your own person when it comes to that.
Right. Being that you're involved more with the cross country side, they have a 10-year rule.
Yeah.
10 years after they stop manufacturing a machine, you can no longer be raced in the XC1 class. What do you think they're going to do in 2026 for McGill and McClure?
They're gonna let them. They're gonna let them be.
They're going to let them race?
Yeah.
Well, they took it away from Borich.
Is that true?
I don't know if it's true, but he knew the inevitable was coming, so he switched to Yamahas.
From the Suzuki?
Yep.
I mean, Chris is right down the road from me. We've had a few conversations about his reason for change is. I'll tell you one reason why I think it was smart for him to go to Yamaha was no one buys LTR parts, so no manufacturer is going to support a platform that I'm not saying nobody, I'm saying very little now. A once dominant machine, I won't even make Nerf bars for them. I make a front bumper, but I have no interest. The same as the carved YFZ that was all over. I remember when you couldn't even walk into a motocross park or a riding park and there wasn't over 100 YFZs when they first came out, the YFZ 450 carbureted models.
Yep.
Try to find one on a racetrack today. There's maybe 10 out of 250. So, like, I know for us, the components that we sell for them, if I made 10 of each, I'd have them for the next 4 years.
Same with this.
YFZR, YFZR, I can sell over 30 bumpers a week, YFZR. So, I think a lot of it comes back to, and I could be wrong with Chris, but if you want to have continued support, I only want to support products that I'm selling,
Right.
you know, and I think that'd be a huge piece, guys like you, engine kits, you know,
Yeah.
to people that make suspension shocks. I mean, if you call them up and say, "Hey, I'm building an LTR to run in 2026, and I need three front ends and three sets of shocks," and because the pros they deserve to be taken care of very well, uh, as far as parts. They put their dues in, and if you're in the top 10, you deserve a decent amount of support because you're not getting it money wise. So we all, as aftermarket companies, try our best to support these guys because without them, our kids have no one to look up to. So,
I agree with you and disagree at the same time.
well,
Help those
uh,
guys, but by gosh, if you're not loyal to the people that are helping you, which there's 80% of those guys aren't, that's the problem I have.
and yeah, there is, um,
Because
yeah, that's,
you're hiring them as a salesperson, basically,
yes.
promote your product and to sell it for retail, not to go, hey, Rick, my buddy needs a set of arms just like mine. Can you give him the good guy deal? No, but I can sell them to him retail because I got to offset my cost for what I gave you.
I know, um, we all hear that, right? And, it's just no. And I tell there's on one hand, I can name the amount of people that get, say, free product from me, and I let them know that you need to sell three of these to pay for that one set. That's what my profit margin is. So if you get a free set of Nerf bars that are $600, you need to find a way to sell three sets for me at full retail to pay for them.
Right.
When you're only working at a 33 to 40% profit margin, you need to make sure that they are selling for you. And if they aren't, then you part ways. Say, I'm sorry. I need more than a shout out that you got your parts, the 1st of January and I'm on the graphics. It needs to be where they're not pushing your product, but they're, when people come up and ask them, why do you use it, that they understand why they do, other than, well, he gave them to me.
Yep.
You know,
Exactly. Exactly. You know, um, Adam McGill, whether you love the guy or hate the guy, he promotes, takes care of his sponsors. I'm not telling you he's a saint. I'm not telling you that he's the perfect role model, but he teaches the kids how to talk to the sponsors, talk on the microphone. He's doing so many beneficial things that when these children like Chloe Harper go out there and they hand her a microphone, she's intelligent, she's smart, she knows how to talk about the product, the racing, and that's what we need is to educate all of these kids. Um, I don't know what happened in our sport, why the things happen the way they do, but you being a sponsor, if you were in the truck industry and you showed up and you touched a truck, you sent an invoice.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, you emailed that guy money. He owed you.
Yep.
You do that in an ATV world, and those people would be freaking throwing a fit.
I know. I've had this conversation with even some of my reps for the store here on how they think it's like they don't even, it doesn't even fathom like how much ATV product is given away compared to the dirt bike world. Because it's almost like a rite of passage where, everyone gets a huge discount. And unfortunately for me, I don't have the means to do that if I want to continue to grow. Uh,
How about to feed
you
your
know,
family?
what's that? Yeah, this is not a hobby. And the guy that mows the lawn in front of our shop here, if he puts his sign out in the lawn, that doesn't mean I get 20% off.
Right.
Same as putting your logo on the graphics. I probably have the lowest discounted riders in the industry running the products that we have. And a lot of it is, I think they appreciate the fact that we have the parts in stock, that they can get me on the phone, that if they have any input or concerns, that I'm there to listen to them. Um, and we're looking to grow with them from the youth ranks all the way up to the 450. That's my goal. I need to start small so everyone gets a little bit of a raise every year, but you don't come out of the gate. Unfortunately, with me, I have to say no because it doesn't make sense. I am in this to grow. I'm in this to help provide a product and a service, and it can't be giving things away.
Right.
The only time I ever necessarily even consider it is if you're on the front row, and then I'm still considering who it is, and what's their story. You mentioned Chloe Harper. Oh my God, is she just dynamic? Anyone else in a women's class really need to think about what they're doing and how bad they want it because she is the full package. She is fast and she is presenting and pumping constantly. Her story will live beyond her racing time. When she decides to be done racing, everything that they've done will be online on YouTube, and it'll be there for the world to watch when she becomes a grandma someday.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that some of our pros um, don't necessarily have that legacy to follow. As far as I would have loved to see the rise of Chris Borich on YouTube, kind of like Hagen like Deegan did. You could see him from when he was on a 50 all the way up to where he is now. It'd been great to see that the rise of Chris, the rise of Walker Fowler, the rise of Bryson Neal, but they are so focused on winning. I think when they were in their moment, they don't have time to do the additional legwork, which it takes an army. It's not just the rider that does it. Like Chloe's family's all in. They are all in, and they are just the nicest people. They're making great results, and I'm a huge fan. I support Chloe, whatever she needs. But wow, anyone else is in a WXC class, you got a lot of work to do to um, ask for the same thing that she asks for.
I think that if you look at XC1, XC2, WXC, none of them. I mean, there's less. There's less than this many that deserve anything because they don't promote themselves
It's,
and they don't promote their sponsors. You know,
a
they
lot
promote
of them are just
themselves, but they're
really
not
good.
promoting their sponsors.
I think, a lot of them are humble people. I know even for myself, I struggle to talk about the successes I've had when you ask me about me. I struggle to remember all the major pinnacle points of my racing career, and I had a lot of them. I was even reminded the other day of a guy that his kid is now racing youth class. He raced when I once did. And they're a customer of ours, someone I made friends with years ago, and now they come to me to buy products for their youth racer. He reminded me of how one year um I missed the AM race because having trouble with my quad, which was a 4x4, and I didn't make it, so I raced the PM race and ran like, I don't know, it was like junior class. I think I got like top three at Ironman on a 4x4 utility quad. Like he reminded me I did. I completely forgot I even did that. Because I just did it because I was there to race. I just drove 10 hours. I want to do something. But then to help, it takes a different person to self promote. It's not easy to do. It's like karaoke. I mean, once you get up on the stage and you sound like crap and all, but once you get used to people don't really care if you sound like crap, you're just crap, you sound like a likable person, you'll eventually evolve into someone that can speak really well, explain themselves well, promote stuff. But you got to get past that tipping point of where it's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable right now talking to you. Like I,
Well,
I am, and
and we're not even, and we're just having a conversation.
I mean, and when I raced, hell, it was only 4x4 class, it was the pinnacle classes. If I didn't get top three, actually, I lie. If I didn't win, I didn't even go for the plaque. I didn't want it. Like I was there to win a race. When I went up to the line, I had in my head that I had the best. I was in shape. I had the best equipment that money could buy, not that what money could give me. I was very particular with what I used, and if I didn't believe in it, I didn't run it. I took the best equipment, the best mindset to the line. And if that didn't get me a win, which I had a lot of wins, but if that didn't get me a win, it was a silent ride home. I don't like losing, which is why I stopped racing once I did, because once I realized that I needed to invest more money or more time staying in shape, I realized that I didn't want to race anymore. I wanted to maybe try to help someone that had those resources that I didn't, because if I can't win, I don't want to do it.
Right. But I totally agree.
But the promotion part, like there's just a few out there that, Chloe's a mentor of Adam. Adam has definitely brought her up through very well. Adam has done a lot for himself. He's extending his career. He's going to have a great story once he retires. He'll most likely have a job in the industry because he can speak with people. He relates with people. He does really well. He might even be doing a podcast someday like you. I don't know. But there's very few, unfortunately, that are like that, that are willing to open up their lives, their homes, their trials and tribulations. I mean, it's not all, roses for Chloe at times, or Adam, or anyone else that's doing the hustle. There's times where it's like, oh, you're exhausted because you are doing more work than the other guy is, you
Yep.
know?
Like
Um,
like the podcast thing. Nobody knows how hard this is behind the scenes until you take it on. And if I didn't have my daughter helping me, which if I didn't have my daughter doing the like you were talking about, I'm talking with you and doing other things. If she wasn't there cutting these episodes up and helping with the setup, it wouldn't happen because there's not enough hours in my day. Self promotion. I have a middle daughter that went to school for um, social media advertising. Okay, and she's a whiz, super smart about it. Tells me all the time I'm doing it wrong because I'm not promoting myself.
mhm.
And after I've worked a 15-hour day, I look at her and I go, "At what point did you want me to stop making money to hit record to do this and answer the phone? There's just no time. You need somebody to hold the camera and stop you to do it and then go cut it up for you because I don't have the time and I'm not savvy enough on the technical side of it to do it.
I probably started a YouTube channel like 3 times, and I get like a month in, and I find get too busy. I don't have time for it. And then you let that day go by. Like you have to set reminders, you have to set goals that, hey, I have to do a 30-second video at least, once a week or something like that, whatever the dynamics are with that. But I fail every single time.
Right.
And so I get the pros that you might say don't deserve it. I think it's it's tough for them. I'm just without them there. What do we have for the kids to look forward to? Like that's the tough part. I'm talking about anyone that's in the top 10, on a weekly basis. It's not easy to be there. There's a huge. You could have an XC1, I'm sorry, XC2 come up to XC1, and you know how it is. They'll get up in those overalls, from the second line, but they're not in that overall anymore once they start from the front line. It's a whole nother level of racing that needs to be figured out. And even people that have done great with promoting all the way up into XC2, they get to the front line, all of a sudden you see their channel slow down because like they're not winning anymore or they're not in the overall anymore and they're trying to figure it out and they want to figure it out so they can give their content that they're used to giving of success. Now they're kind of in their own eyes possibly failing, not meeting the mark.
And a portion of that is because we put such a high value on winning and championships, and I'm never going to change that. I think running the number one plate is the most important thing. There is no other number on the line, especially when I was turning wrenches and building race bikes all the time. I didn't care about any other number but one. And the part that those young riders that are transitioning are forgetting is they're still building themselves, and those guys in front of them have they're teaching them. All they got to do is keep doing what they're doing, stay after it. Their day will come. If you look at ATV racing in a whole, which you're part of this in your progression in your age, maybe not in the 4x4 class, but in all of your sport quad classes, look at the age of the champions. It's not the 22-year-old guy. They're all late 20s, early 30s now. And for a while there, they were later 30s, early 40s where we had champions. And it's because it takes longer to develop the skill set to ride a quad at that level. I don't understand the dynamics of why that is. It just is.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that before.
The older guys are faster. There's a rare guy that comes in like Jeremiah Jones and as a green kid and smokes everybody. Um, but he's still an unbelievable talent and so smart when it comes to watching people ride. And I mean, he could watch you and tell you what you're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not enough people like him in our world.
I think the champions are, in my opinion, are the ones that understand setup without it consuming them. They understand how to make it work without it consuming them. You have to understand, like Bill Balance was an amazing champion that was extremely technical. He figured out a way to be technical on setup, but not let it consume him that he couldn't sleep the night before the race. And I could be wrong. Maybe he didn't. But I know anytime I would make a change, it'd be like 2 a.m. I'd be like, "Ah, should I put it back the way it was? Was that the right decision?" So I think there's a lot of guys that are just extremely fast at riding quads, but not at setup, and they're the ones that typically break them. And then you have the guys that learn how to ride the quad or set it up to ride for them, not someone else's setup. And then they go out and they win championships. Uh, Especially in the XE1 Pro class. You need, it's more than just getting on and riding it and being older. I think it's understanding how much 3 seconds a lap adds up, or, whether it's motocross or, 15 seconds a lap in XC, by hitting the corners right or having a machine that um, works in all aspects of the track, not just one aspect. A lot of people go and they train in Florida all winter long for one race that's in the sand. I mean, it gets them in shape, but that setup is good for one race. Uh, I don't know. I would be more, in the Georgia, North Carolina area where you got the clay where the majority of the tracks are. But it's cool to say you're going to Florida for the winter. But um, I don't know. You got, Jared McClure, he's breaking top tens once in a while. He doesn't even go south. He shows up and he's typically top five guy at the first race. And he's an old school guy. He's got his setup. I don't know if it's changed a whole lot. I know Jared's extremely technical when it comes to suspension. I think he knows where he feels comfortable, and when he gets that track that meets his setup, he's a top three guy. So it's the ones that know how to make the adjustments per track, and yeah, they just go out and they hammer away at it.
I agree that those guys are, but they're learning. They've learned and learned, and Bryson Neal, that guy. I'd love to have a conversation with him because he just seems like so strong, so fast, learned so much following Walker Fowler, and battling with him. And now look at him. The guy is just unbeatable.
Bryson is a polished machine, and I wish his story was a YouTube story that we could see where he's doing and how he's doing it on the daily basis or weekly basis. Because that, like Bryce, like where Bryson Neal is now, where Walker Fowler was then, where Chris Borch was then, where um, Bill Balance was then. If we had their stories of their 5 to 7 year runs, and it would be for kids to watch on YouTube, which my kid just got done shutting YouTube off because that's what he does. Um, I really feel that that would definitely help our sport. Maybe even coming back to the issue with motocross and XC is GNCC does an amazing job showcasing the live race, you know, of GNCC racing, and it doesn't necessarily exist um, on that level with the motocross. The feel's not the same, and maybe that's part of the reason why. I know motocross got rid of Daytona this year, I think,
Yeah.
26. Um, I get it was cool to say you raced at that track. I get it was cool to be around that vibe of that track, but of Daytona is what I'm speaking of. But I felt bad that the stands were empty and you were racing with with like vintage class bikes on a track that looked boring.
Yeah, because the promoters took the skill set out of it because they devalued
It looked absolutely boring
they
online
devalued the
watching
skill
it.
set of the pro quad guys. And none of the other classes they would vote out. I mean,
Yeah.
WXC should have been there. Or, I mean, yeah, no, WMX should have been there every time because they're a pro level deal. They should have been promoting themselves, but they didn't want to go.
Well, I the speed that those guys carry was not showcased.
No, not at all.
The skill set that those guys carry in their jumping skills was not showcased.
Let them run the
Um,
pro. Oh,
it looked like anyone could do what they were doing on video, watching it live. And that was sad because I know how fast those guys go. It's unreal. Like
no,
how fast they're even going in that arena, on that track. They were hauling ass, but it didn't look like it at all.
no. And I'm bummed that they're not going, but you know, I'm also bummed that we haven't taken the reins from what we learned last year when they live streamed the races and created a show that started at whatever 10 o'clock in the morning and went to freaking 2 or 3 and live streamed 4 classes, their qualifying, their first and second motos, the podium, and did the whole 9 yards and made a show of it because that's how they are going to grow motocross. It has to be an entertainment.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
outdoor motocross. There's no amateurs there.
no.
Why are we showcasing amateurs at our nationals when they shouldn't be showcased? You could run a pro day, then run amateurs after that pro show is over, and then finish on Sunday and then go home.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the motocross format to understand how it works, truthfully, to comment on that. I've never even been to one. As far as oh, I'm trying to think. No, I haven't. I have not been to a
You ought to go. You ought to go to one.
one. I've seen um highlight reels of like Joel Hetrick um on tracks that I'm familiar with um from my kids racing dirt bike, and I know what sections he was in, or even the other people that were behind him. He's usually pretty far ahead, but I know he's hauling ass to go through those sections. That's my measuring stick for how fast they're going. Like, yeah, I know that track, and holy crud, he'd smoke anybody on the day if we were there for regionals. And so that was always my measuring stick on how fast they really are going was seeing them race tracks that I'm familiar with, like Pleasure Valley, for instance. I'm familiar with that track. So uh, when I see them going through certain sections, it's like, yeah, that's unreal. And that track is an extremely gnarly track that'll take you out in a heartbeat. So that's my measuring stick with those guys and how fast they really are going. Because, even at the GNCC races, um, if you're anywhere within 20 feet of the track and Bryson and Walker and Wyatt Wilkin and a few of the other guys go by, you're digging dirt out from underneath your shirt because you just got hammered by Roost. Like those guys are hauling ass. And unfortunately, a lot of times you just can't see it in video. And that's kind of like maybe part of the issue that we have, the true feel of it, can't be appreciated. You go to a NASCAR race, it looks totally different than, on TV. When you get that, it shakes your whole body when they go by,
Right.
like it's like, whoa, that's crazy. And you get to feel that feeling every 15 seconds for the next 4 hours, that's the stuff that bring people in. So yeah,
I think the fan base for the XC is another reason why the sport grows because those people are crazy about it and they love it and they just go out in the woods and they go to the mud holes and they're just incredibly great fans. Awesome stuff.
the one of the greatest gifts that we have from the GNCC, and there's a lot of critics of them, they put on the best show, in my opinion. It's their DNA. Thank God. Thank God ATV racing is on Saturday. Because if you go to a GNCC on a Sunday, it is a ghost town. And it's not because all the ATV guys left, because they did, but this it's so much bigger on Saturday because all the bike guys are there with the ATV guys. So the fan base is huge. People are all over. It looks bigger than it is big. It looks GNCC ATV looks bigger than GNCC dirt bike if you were to compare them Saturday to Sunday. So thank God that they don't ever put us on a Sunday, or it would be the death of ATV racing, I would think.
Yeah, you should tell the promoters on the West Coast that because they don't get it.
Well, unfortunately, our local series that we have for majority of our ATV XC racing are on the same mentality as the West Coast that bikes go before four-wheelers. And we typically, if you run a PM class, which is typically the A classes and stuff, you're lucky if you get out of there before dark sometimes because whatever delay there is throughout the day just compounds. And sometimes you get a 3-lap race, sometimes you get a 2-lap race, sometimes you get a full race. But yeah, um, and we always tell them all the time, how come GNCC can do it, but you guys can't? And the truth is, the promoters are dirt bike enthusiasts. That's their DNA, and that's what they're pushing, And, I feel that we truly don't, as a sport of ATV, don't have anyone high enough in the ranks of the manufacturers that have ATV in their DNA. They've all graduated to side by sides and
You
roll
know,
cages.
you take guys like us, we still have a bad taste in our mouth because when the factories came in the last time, they kind of shit on all of the guys that carried the industry.
I was not in the industry at the time as a manufacturer, so I'm not sure how that worked.
They just did all the guys that carried the load, the companies that really had the teams there, the trailers there, the racers. We didn't pay the guys, but we paid all their bills.
Oh, yeah, I understand what you're
Bike,
saying now.
and we were the ones that did it. And then when the factories came in, they went to everybody but those guys.
Is that where your loyalty comment came from?
No, my loyalty comment comes from most racers are there for themselves and they could care about what they don't care about what product they're running as long as somebody's giving it to them for free.
I hope that's not the case, but you've been doing this a lot longer than I. I might still be a little optimistic that um, that's
There,
not the case, but
there are good people in our industry.
hmm
There are great families in our industry. Some of the best people I've ever met were at an ATV race, but some of the worst people I met were ATV professional racers.
I luckily I'd have to say I have not been exposed to that yet. But then again, I've not given everything to someone for nothing. It's typically I'm very cautious because I want to stay financially and fiscally responsible in our company so we can continue to grow. So if you require me to give you 4 sets of everything a year as a pro rider, yeah, I'm gonna say, man, I'd love to have you, but I can't, you
Yeah,
know.
and that's
And
part of
that's where and that's you know and that's where I'm at on it. Like I'm there's been plenty of opportunity and plenty of times I said I can't because it just doesn't make sense for me. I simply that's not my it. There's a huge high seeing your product on the front line. There's a huge high seeing your product on the podium. There's a huge downer if you're going out of business for doing that. And I don't want to be a part of that.
you got to keep your ego out of it.
It,
It's your
it's
ego when you see your guy on the top of the box with all your stuff and it's all cool. and then you go back and check your checking account afterwards to figure out exactly how much that cost you, it cripples your business, and it's just not justifiably worth it.
Yeah, and that's why I said like I want to grow gradually. I want to grow with my riders. I I'm here to, to support them anytime they need a phone call. But unfortunately, I'm not going to give it away just because I can't. It doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'm out. And we got to sustain or look at how many people were in the business that I'm in 10 years ago. They're all gone. I mean, at least I think they might be.
Most of them
Uh,
are.
like Pro Armor, DG, PRM. Uh, there's
There's a
a few
ton of
others
them.
that,
There's a ton of them that are gone because
well, you know what? A lot of them got bought out by like Pro Armor got bought out by what was it? It wasn't Polaris. And they looked at the numbers and said, no way, whoever bought them out. But yeah, like they were giving out tons of product, how much you want. And it doesn't add up. It's not sustainable.
it doesn't. And your hobby is not my hobby. This is my livelihood. And there's racers right now, when they listen to this, they're going to be pissed at me and, call me, dirty names. And that's fine. You can, but you have to look at it. This is a business. We are not here just to do it because we want to work hard and make sure you get everything you want out of life. We're feeding our families and creating our lives doing this.
Yeah. And it's sometimes you have to justify why things cost what they cost and why the discount is what it is. One of the biggest issues is you can go on Hook It right now and fill out your profile and probably get 50% off Scott goggles. Well, that guy's going to get, you know, Scott goggles are made in USA, so I don't know if that's a good one to use as an example, but it's hard to if you offer someone a 20% discount and you get a little decal on their quad, but in reality you saved them about $1,500 that year in parts versus someone that gave them 50% off for, say, I don't know, some kind of Under Armour gloves or something, and they get a big decal because, in their opinion, they're contributing more, but in reality, their profit margin's 300% where mine's 30%.
Right.
Um, that's not for them to figure out. My goal is hopefully to instill in them that I'm here to help them do the best that they can to finish races without any breakages, to have product lined up in case they go. If their kid hits a tree every damn freaking race this year, I will have a bumper for them in stock. You
Right.
know, I don't, that's where I'm at. Like, yeah, I'm gonna keep selling them to you, but at least I have it.
Right.
And I can't control what they hit, but that's where we are with it. Um, So yeah, it's tough, and it's a fine line you got to figure out. Am I here to help the people that are out there, you know, doing it for a living? Which really there isn't too many that are doing it for a living.
No.
Maybe two, but
I
either
think there's
way, like,
I think there's more than that, but not many more than that. I mean,
yeah.
like with the couple guys in Europe that are doing it for a living, with the few guys here in the States that are doing it for the living, when you compare that to the motorcycle industry, with there's not as many make doing it for a living in the motorcycle industry as people think. There are people that are breaking even, so they're not going negative. Where
Mhm.
there's a whole handful of pros that are going negative every year because they're not making as much as they're spending.
That adds up after a while.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Wish I could help them more, but then again, then I'd be negative.
yeah, and and it's tough. We have a goal to develop 10 new products a year. pretty much a little over one a month. Um, and I have a book of ideas of things that don't exist yet, but I know I'm going to make it. The one benefit, the one benefit to the ATV manufacturers doing nothing and just changing colors is, shit, I got product that fits from a 2009 all the way up to 25 right now. Same thing.
Right.
Imagine if it was a dirt bike or a side by side. That's my other fear of side by side getting into that whole rabbit hole is I'd have to develop a new Nerf bar every 3 years, you
Right.
know, a new component every 3 years. And like, so there is an upside to ATV development being zero on the manufacturer's end, is that at least I get to make something that fits a huge amount of product sold by them.
Right. Right.
You know, that's the upside. That's the
That is
upside.
the upside. Rick, I
Um,
wanna thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. I know that it did take some time happening, but I was watching your development of your new facility, so I knew what you were doing. And hey, keep it up. The industry needs people like you, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show.